Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the live coaching hour where you have the opportunity to ask me anything. I hope this time my voice is coming clearly. For the ones who have joined, can you please let me know if you can hear me loud and clear, or if I need to do some more arrangements. Okay, that's fine. Let's see. Okay. Oh man, I have no idea why. Wi-Fi to be, at least on my end, everything looks very clear. Let's see. What happens when you're not in your own home and in a new setting? Everything feels a bit. Is this better? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Clearly? Waiting for somebody to respond if they can hear me or see me clearly, because I am wondering if the challenge is that you just cannot hear me. Then ask maybe to do it from where you are, but you're getting less blurry. So I guess you mean from here? This is going to be an awkward start. Oh, man. Okay. Okay. Well. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so let's hope I'm able to edit this part out. So we'll start again. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're calling from. It's 10 a.m. here in Canada. And I know people are joining mostly from Europe, so I hope you had a good day. This is my last day in Canada. We fly tomorrow. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but very excited to be here today. Maybe now what I was doing before is let's land together. If you want, you can maybe close your eyes, and if not, you can gaze out in the distance. And let's take 3 breaths together. We'll inhale, hold, and then exhale. And as you inhale, think about all the things you want to invite into your life. Hold it. And as you exhale, things that don't serve you, let them go. So let's do 2 more times. Inhale. Hold. And exhale. And one last time, if you need to move your body, just to stretch out any restricted muscles, you can do that. And let's do inhale, hold, and slowly exhale. Perfect. All right. How is everyone doing? I would love to hear. I know a few of you are here. I would love to hear in one word how your day has been so far, or how your weekend was, whatever you feel like sharing. One word. We'll do a cycle check-in even on these live calls. So if you had to describe what you're feeling in terms of your inner weather or season, feel free to add. Roshni says hot. That can mean so many things, but I like it. I like it. I don't know where Roshni is, but I think most of the northern hemisphere is in summer, which means a lot of activity. There's always too much to do and never enough time, too many friends to meet, too many picnics to go to. And that can feel a bit overwhelming, and it can feel like there's a lot happening in the body. So Roshni, I hope you're finding time to cool down as well in the hot weather. Christina says loving things around. Sorry, more than moving things around. And loving things around. I know, that's pretty nice typo. That's good. Are you moving yourself or your furniture? I'm knowing you, most likely furniture, but that's good. All right. Well, always in the active energy, finding ways to ground is the best way to, stay balanced. But all right. Thank you for sharing and welcome to the live coaching hour. Oh my God. Oh, I didn't catch it. I got my coffee delivery. Ooh, Roshni added cycle day 4 is in Portugal, feeling a bit jittery and navigating the edges of overwhelm. Absolutely. And I'm assuming when you say cycle day 4, that means you're in your cycle right now. It's a beautiful invitation to slow down. I have been talking to one of my clients who just has a lot of barrier against resting and the idea of wintering. And I keep telling her, like, the menstrual phase is actually really productive, but the way you be productive in this phase is by resting. So it's a woozy, but Roshni, I hope you are just giving yourself grace. Your periods, your menstrual cycle there's always a lot of signals, a lot of information waiting to be received. But if you don't make space to receive it, then it's kind of lost and it doesn't know what to do. And it comes out often in different sorts of like pain and like fatigue and overwhelm. So just allow it. Ask your periods, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to hear? What are you trying to tell me? I find that a beautiful practice, especially in the evenings. Light a candle, have a little herbal tea, and then just be like, what do you want me to know this round, in this cycle, and see what comes through. And that actually, thanks Roshni for that nudge, is a great opening for what I wanted to talk about today. I know people come in with questions as I am speaking, so if anything comes up for you, feel free to put it in the chat. But I have been sitting with this idea of rewilding and what it means to rewild myself. Because over the last 2 years, I have been doing a lot of exploration of what it means for women to regenerate. We talk a lot about regenerative agriculture. We talk about regenerative design, making sure that we're using, circular economy principles and using renewable resources. And we talk a lot about this in the external world, and it's very popular right now. I got introduced to this work in 2020 because of the fashion brand that I was running, which was also trying to be sustainable and realizing fashion is never sustainable. Fashion is always extractive. You are taking something and turning it into something. And it can also be wasteful, because in the way we currently use our clothes and how quickly we discard our clothes, it is how the system is designed. So what does it mean to have regenerative everything? Regenerative food, regenerative clothes, regenerative homes, all of it. And that conversation around regenerative fashion, and then at the same time burning out, 4 years running the business that I was running, led me to this exploration of what it means to regenerate myself as a person. What does regeneration mean? And also, I'm in my mid 30s. So I don't know if you've heard this, but after your 30s, your cells are dying at a faster rate than they're generating. So we're on this decline, which I don't think is a decline. It's just the beautiful journey of life. But it just, again, was a beautiful invitation for me to be like, oh, I am tired a lot more now. And I am overwhelmed sometimes more easily. And I feel a lot of things. So how am I taking care of myself and not externalizing it? Because growing up, it was my parents maybe who took care of me. And then once I became an adult, it was my loved ones, my friends, my partner. And so trying to find ways to resource myself is my definition of rewilding myself, because I see nature, whatever season it will be, it lives. Only when there's extreme situations, like there's a fire or a flood, will a forest suffer. But throughout the regular seasons of life, forest continues to grow itself, nourish itself, regenerate itself. And so this is the pursuit that I have been on, to figure out what would it mean for me to regenerate myself, for me to go back to my wild ways, because we have been trained to become so dependent on external things, a lot of capitalistic things, like we need our medicines, we need our spa, otherwise we cannot relax, or we need to go on holiday, otherwise we don't know how to like calm down our nervous system. Those are all important tools, but the pursuit that I have been on is to figure out how can I do it without, externalizing it, finding ways within me. So I would love to hear if this is resonating, if this is bringing up any questions for you. Feel free to put it in the chat. And this practice, yesterday, was it yesterday or maybe a few days ago, I posted the first part 1 of this conversation on Substack, where I started to talk about what are the different ways that I have been applying this idea of rewilding myself and what that means for me. And I think this is also, before I share more, I want to preface that my way of rewilding is not going to be your way of rewilding. It is extremely important that we do our own exploration. We can take inspiration and we can try things and be like, oh, this works for me, but this doesn't. So you always want to use people out there who are a few steps ahead of you to be inspired from, but always the invitation is to find your own answers. And what does it mean for you to, resource yourself and be resourced within. So one of the practices I talked about is cycle syncing my calendar. And I think Roshni, given the fact that she wrote that she's on her cycle day 4, that means I'm hoping she's also tracking. But what that means is looking at my menstrual cycle, and I'm very happy that my periods have come back postpartum, and thankfully they are regular. Of course, there's a little bit of up and down, but mostly regular, so that I am able to watch it and notice my own energy and how I'm feeling, and in which phases of my cycle I am feeling inspired, in which I'm feeling depleted, and organize my calendar around that. If you don't know, the menstrual cycle goes through 4 phases. So it starts with your periods, which is always the winter. This is also really beautiful because when you look at the Kali philosophy, like the Shakti philosophy of Hinduism, there is thus Mahavidyas, which is 10 great wisdom or great knowledge. And these are 10 stages someone goes through for like reaching the truth. I don't want to say, what is the word? I want to, in my head it's incarnation, but it's not incarnation. The peak of realization, let's say, self-actualization. For that, in the Mahadasvidya, which is also very Shakti focused, which is very feminine focused, the first stage is Kali. And Kali is the goddess of destruction, of anger, of dissolution. And this to me is such a beautiful metaphor again, given that the feminine cycle always starts with breaking things down. It starts with letting go. It starts with dissolution of the ego. And similarly, when we look at our menstrual cycle, we look at the inner winter, which is again your inner lining of your uterus disintegrating. It's making room for the new cycle to begin. And so instead of looking at spring as the start of the year, winter is really the start of the year. And wintering is an essential part for the seeds to be sown for the next cycle. So when I'm in my inner winter, I do nothing. So recently, even though I've been on holiday, I have a family. So I couldn't just be like, I'm going to do nothing and I'm going to sit in bed. I chose not to do any work. So even though I have a program that I'm relaunching, which I just launched yesterday, but I was planning to launch it, I chose to just rest and enjoy time with my family and travel and be in parks and sleep under the trees. That was a conscious choice that I made, given the fact that I knew I was in my periods. So again, wintering doesn't mean sitting at home inside a blanket. It could, because for some of us, periods can be really painful and uncomfortable, and then you must rest even more. But if you are someone who has not so intense periods, you could be outside, but you're not doing anything productive, right? You're not trying to create something. You want to just let your body rest, let it get the space to regenerate that is needed. So that's what I do when I'm on my winter. And after the periods are over, the first, I would say, a week, 10 days is your spring or the follicular phase, which is essentially when you start to really, all the signals you were receiving during your periods of like, oh, I should do this, maybe I should do this, or maybe what I'm doing doesn't make sense, I need to let that go. You start acting on it. You start to put certain pieces together. You start to put some ideas out in the world, put some feelers out, see how it's going. Does it land? So I was posting a lot about like, my periods told me that I need to like stop talking about XYZ because I felt the pressure to say XYZ if I want to be a serious professional coach. And that was something that was making my body feel like, oh, I don't want to be that person. I want to, like, there's so many, biases and stories we have told ourselves about how to be X type of person, that to let go is also a practice of rewilding. And I was going through that during my period. So my first step during spring was to be like, I'm going to put feelers out. I want to see, like, I'm going to put this out and see how it goes. How does my body feel once I do? And it felt liberating. Again, I'm not putting things out and seeking external validation, because then anything. Because I put out, for example, I put out a video just saying, like, I was in my moment. I was in this like deck and I was just like, oh, like I love watching people dance on the internet. Like, it makes me so happy. Like, women who are like grooving and chilling and like joyous is like super sexy to me. And I am that kind of person in real life. If you know me and met me, you will see me like, I'm very happy, jolly, dancey person. But when it comes to putting that online, I'm like, I don't know. There's a block there. And I still decided to post, I'm not even dancing. I'm just moving. I'm like just happy. I'm like, my body's moving, it's free. And I talk about that if something triggers you online, it's not something that you don't like about that person, it's something you want. And it's an invitation to look within and ask yourself, what is it that you want that that person already has, and it's making you feel a certain way. And of course, on the comments, I got lots of sweet feedback because I have a sweet community, a very loving, kind community. But in private, I got a friend who said that she couldn't take me seriously if I'm moving. I need to sit down and be calm and give my gyan or my wisdom to the world. And I was like, it brought me down so quickly because I was so high from posting that, from liberating myself, from being like, okay, I can do this. I can express myself this way and I'll be received. And then that one thing did shake me. But what I realized from there, thankfully through this experience of cycle syncing, is I'm putting out feelers and I cannot depend on external responses to what I want from my life. Because I could tomorrow want to shave my head and there'll be 10,000 people who'll be like, don't do it. But if I want to do it, let me fucking do it. And so this practice of syncing with my cycle, knowing my inner wisdom, knowing that there was something my periods nudged me to do, and it invited me to trust and experiment and just do without overthinking. And then when I put it out there, I just felt like, okay, this is a mode of expression I hadn't used before, and I could. And I also know that there will be a lot of people who will not like it, and a lot of people I actually call friends who won't like it, but that's fine. That's their journey. It's also an invitation to remind yourself that you are on your own path. So that's spring. Now, right now I'm in my ovulation, which is your summer season, which, if you know the feminine cycle, it's like 3 days. So you are in your peak energy, when you're ovulating, biologically, you're like, give me a baby, like, let's create something. I'm in like full force energy. Thank you. I'm just reading Christina's response or message saying, despite not needing external responses, I love that books. Thank you. And I want that for you. And I feel like my desire from doing these live and just talking, and of course, please, if there are questions, put that in, but just sharing where I'm at is to be a mirror, to give you the permission to try, to trust, and just do, and know that whatever's coming forth, good, bad, ugly, is an invitation to find who you are and, really allow yourself to get to know you. So yeah, anyway, thank you, Tina. Coming back to summer. So currently I'm in my ovulation, which is peak energy. It's the season of creation, visibility. You want to like do things. And that's why yesterday I launched the next round of Root to Rise, which is my regenerative leadership journey for founders, where I support them find this like wild way of being, this feminine way of being and leading for their business, for their work, for their leadership. And I did that because this is the time where I have the energy. I have the energy to respond to questions. I have the energy to follow up. I have the energy to invite people, have one-on-one discussion. So this could for you look like that during your summer is when you really not just put feelers out, you commit. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put myself out there. And then autumn comes, which is your last, I think it's like 15 to 20 days, depending on how long the cycle is. So it's a long time. And a lot of times immediately go like, okay, now I must analyze everything because luteal phase is equivalent to autumn, which is equivalent to like harvesting and shedding and like reflecting on things. But I personally, in my cycle, the first, I would say a week even of the luteal phase, I'm still in my summer energy. I'm still like putting things out there. I'm receiving feedback. I'm not jumping into analyzing because I feel like Luteal phase is also when your inner critic comes out because of just the hormones, the way they are flowing in your body, preparing your body to shed. If you haven't conceived a baby, it's getting your body ready to shed the lining. Your hormone, like this high, happy, energetic hormone, starts to drop. And because that's dropping, you start to feel like, wow, what am I doing with life? Nobody responded to my call. Like, I'm failing. I should really just quit. And da 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 da. You go in that spiral. And therefore, my invitation is it's such a long period. If you have to spiral a little later. But in the beginning, just continue to do what you're doing and continue to share your gifts, share your voice, share your perspective, and take feedback and like tweak it if you feel that it needs to be tweaked. Don't take every feedback that comes your way and be like, oh, I must now change my entire strategy. I don't think that works. Luteal phase is also an invitation to see if you can stand in your truth. Your inner critic is checking if you're really ready for what you're inviting in your life. Are you really ready for the expansion that you want? And that means, yes, there might be feedback, especially when you put yourself out there. There will be feedback from loved ones, from people who care, from strangers on the internet, from professional colleagues. If you have a job, maybe from your boss or your someone who's reporting to you. There will be responses, but this is the time where you get to decide that how much of it you're willing to take, how much of it you're going to let go and not let bother you. And that is possible when you know who you are. So in a way, it's an interesting cyclical way of the universe also checking if you are really rooting in your truth and what your desires are. And then comes the last part of the luteal phase, or the second half, which we all know as the PMS, because that's when your inner critique is really like, you suck, and you don't know what you're doing, and all that imposter syndrome, starts to come out. For some women, it doesn't. And I mean, that's really good if you're one of those women whose inner critic is just a sweet cheerleader by your side. But for me, I've noticed that those last few days before my period comes, I'm a bit more mean to myself. And it really helped. I went to a women's circle where the whole conversation was around meeting your inner critic. And we went through this visualization together where we actually gave it an embodiment, give it a person. Like, how did she look like? She walked into the room, she sat in front of me, and she was there, and I just asked, what do you want me to know? And the interesting thing was, I was assuming that she was going to be a mean bitch. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Go find a job, or go do this, or go do that. Like, she would be truth telling in a mean way. But what I found is that she was a truth teller, for sure. Your inner critic is a truth teller, but she's a truth teller holding you to your higher good. She's holding you to your higher standard. And while I was conversing with her, and this is again, very spiritual practice. If you don't believe in spirituality, which I don't think you'll be watching this if you did, but if you don't, this will be very hard to understand because you are giving a part of your psyche, a persona, and conversing with it. But it's possible because there's a lot happening in our inner auras. But while I was conversing with her, what I realized is that she was showing me things I was like contracting from and like pulling away from, and I was scared. And she was like, bitch, watch this. You want this, and you've only come this way, and you're like, let me achieve everything I want. You're like, but you have to do this much more, and this much more, and this much. And again, it's not from a place of like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, you know what you're talking about, but you're not doing what you say you want. And so for me, now PMS has become this like fun time of being like, oh my God, what is she going to say? And is there something that I need to embody? And is there a message there that I need to receive that I am I either not conscious of or consciously ignoring? And so that becomes the PMS, the famous PMS, where we are irritable and annoyed and snappy. And it's because we don't know what with this inner dialogue we're having, we don't know what to do with this. So my practice is to a lot of journaling. If I don't have my journal, a lot of notes app, writing things that are coming. And it does help for me. Again, I would love to hear how this is landing for you, but it does help for me to trust that the message I'm receiving is the message I'm meant to receive. I don't overanalyze it. I don't try to add my opinion in it. I don't try to dilute it with the fears that I have. I accept that that's what I'm supposed to hear. By who? God knows. You can call her your inner critic. You can call her your universe. You can call her your, your ancestors. You can call her God, whatever. But that's the message I am meant to hear, and I just accept. And I haven't had a moment where that message has done me wrong. It has put me through some interesting conversations. I will not deny that. But it has always had the higher good for me in mind. And so this is also when we talk about trust and surrender. That's like your PMS, your end of your luteal phase, just before your periods, is such a potent time to practice that. Okay, I hear this message. It's coming back to me. I've written it down and it's still right there. I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to trust and surrender. If your inner critic is talking to you in a mean way, don't just, like, if your inner critic is like, you suck, like, you don't have to accept that. Ask her, what does that mean? Ask her, like, what is it that I'm not doing that's making you feel this way? And this is where conversing with your inner critic comes in. When you do that, then you'll be like, okay, she's just worried about me not putting myself out there the way I am visualizing, or she's inviting me to do this when I'm really scared to do it. So you will be able to get to that action and make a note of that. That's the juice, not like the mean words. Because again, we have 20, 30 years of conditioning of talking to ourselves in a mean way when we struggle or when we are not feeling good. But instead, can we be encouraging, and can we find the action that's needed through that discomfort? So yeah, that's your luteal. And then you come back to winter. And you come back to winter where you start to be like, okay, I heard you. Now give me a break. Let me rest. Let me relax. Let me land into my body. I'm going to start thinking about what my next steps are here. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to think. I'm going to just relax. I'm going to let answers come to me. And then when spring comes again, that's when you start to do things, start to act, put your feelers out, plant your seeds. And I think that's where the juice is. And then you go through the cycles, because again, the masculine patriarchal way of success has been, it's only an upward curve and it's a straight fucking line. And everybody knows that's not how the world runs. That's not how life goes. It goes up and down. It might even go up and then crash and then stay there for a while. And that's why tracking your cycles can be a spiritual practice. It can support you while your life is going up and down, up and down, up and down. All right, Roshni is just begin to work with my inner critic 4 years ago as part of my menstrual cycle awareness was life-changing for me. Beautiful. So, and thanks, Roshni, for joining. So yeah, this is one of the ways that I've been actively accommodating this idea of rewilding myself, because we as women, as the feminine, we have been around longer than the masculine. I was reading a text from, I think it's A Great Cosmic Mother, the book, and it talked about how when the earth was formed, all of the organisms that came to be, they were incubated in the Great Sea. And it was this feminine flow, the salty waters, where new life came to be. And it didn't often need the masculine. It had the potential to generate with itself. Of course, then there was different things that happened, and like the masculine was needed for its own purpose and it started to come about. But that text was just such a beautiful reminder to me that we birth life as women. We have this like internal spiritual guide that's always on our side. And we, in the patriarchal world, have been trained to look at it as the negative, as something that we need to like fight, and like the periods every month suck. Like the number of women I meet who are like, I hate my periods, and I can't be productive then, and it's so painful, and da 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 da. And I understand that that's how we've been raised, and that's everyone around us. All the ads when we should either be playing tennis in a white skirt during our periods, all the advertisements for pads, for tampons, they want us to see it as something that's stopping us from living our true life. But the truth is that it is an invitation to allow the truth to come into your life. And that is the period where you have to pause and let the messages come in. So yeah, that's about cycle syncing. The second practice that I talked about in the article is just like really rooting into my culture. Now, this could look very different from where, for you, because from wherever you are, you might have different ancestral practices, different indigenous practices, different practices from your land, which have been lost. I have been hearing a lot of like even European sisters finding their roots and finding the feminine practices, the pagan practices of their land before Christianity came in, which was often very closely connected with the earth, which was very closely connected with the moon or the sun and the agricultural cycle, so very closely connected with nature. And so for me, that's one invitation. You can do your exploration within that. I don't think I had any relationship with nature before I moved to Finland, because India, where I stayed, I always lived in big cities, and we have destroyed our nature. The capitalistic greed for development and advancement has led to a place where we're a country that's extremely polluted and populated, and like cutting trees is just, I don't know, a hobby of many people. There's a lot there. So I never had a relationship with nature. And then I moved to Finland, which is this small country with few people and a lot of nature. And it kind of forced me to build a relationship with the trees, with the lakes, with the water, with the forest. And it's interesting, and it's just coming to me, and I want to speak to this, is in India, all the horror movies, it's always in the forest. It's always that you are in the forest and suddenly you feel something and you turn, and either there's a ghost or someone about to murder you, or like the thriller horror movies. And it's just making me think, it's like, maybe this is why nobody wants a relationship with the forest, because you have associated it with fear and like bad things, and like this is where you get murdered, instead of like this is where the richness of the world is, this is where the mother trees are, this is where there's this like mycelium network underground that can teach us so much about relationships and belonging and community. So it just came to me because when I first moved to Finland, and I would, after a night out with friends, I would walk back to home, and I would cross these like, not forest for like intense, but like a forest path. I would catch myself turning back every 2 minutes, because I always felt like I was being followed. And I was never being followed because there's no one to follow. There's no people in Finland. Like no one's following me, but there was this like inner fear that I was going to be followed and murdered or raped and killed, and all of it came from my conditioning being in India and being an Indian girl. And I was just, there was this like weird sense of I shouldn't be alone in the forest. And now, after 11 years, nearly 11 years in Finland, I'm like, let me be in the forest. Let me go naked swimming in the lake. Let me like just sit and read a book somewhere. And it's such an interesting realization that I'm having right now. Is like, no wonder we don't care for our trees in India. No wonder we have, like, of course, let me say this, India is too big. I'm not talking about all Indians. There are so many people who have beautiful relationship with nature and are fighting to protect it. But I grew up not having a relationship. And I have grown to have a relationship with nature because of my presence and my life in Finland. And this is why, again, for the longest time, I hated the fact that, or not hated, but I had a love-hate relationship living in Finland because I always wanted to go back to India. But now that I look at it, I'm like, wow, this was the gift I needed to see that only Finland could give me. And so I'm so grateful for the nature in Finland. I'm so grateful for people who have a relationship with nature and have invited me to experience it. And that has expanded my relationship with nature and therefore my relationship with the feminine, because I was one of those people who was like, I'm a city girl. I want to live in like concrete jungle. I want to like always be in chaos and people and shops and this and that. And I'm realizing that's the masculine. And I love it. I'm a very masculine person. So I love that. But I'm on this journey of reclaiming and restoring my feminine. And that comes from being in nature and being in earth and being in the most natural states of, of who you could be. So yeah, that's something that just came to me, this horror movie experience. So yeah, that's the pagan connection, like bringing rituals back into your life, bringing certain practices from your ancestors, certain traditions back into your life, because there was meaning in it. There was a way for us to build a relationship with the earth, realizing that we're not just like here to conquer the earth, but we have a relationship with the earth, we have a relationship with the land, with the water, with the moon, with the sky. And hence we must take care of it, because when they are healthy, we are healthy. And again, I go back to India. When the air is polluted, that's when people are having asthma and like issues with breathing. When the water is polluted, that's where people are having dysentery and diarrhea and like kids are dying. And so there's so much connection that when one thrives, the other thrives. And often it starts with the earth thriving. So we must prioritize the earth thriving, because when the earth is thriving, we are thriving. And that's the other practice of that I've been trying to embody. It's not the easiest, because we live so much in the capitalistic world and you have to make very conscious choices, but that's a practice that I've been doing, is building my relationship with nature and how I consume and what I consume. And the other thing is rooting back into my ancestry, which is in Hinduism. So I also grew up thinking that practicing Hinduism was wrong and was just like not what the cool kids do, and being religious is yucky, and having a relationship with these like gods is not what smart people do. And as I have grown up, I'm realizing that I find my religion really beautiful, because we don't believe in one god. We believe in like, people make fun of this, but like Hinduism has like thousands of gods, and everything is a god, and everything it has power, and everything is a persona that you could pray to. And personally, I've been more drawn to the Shakti philosophy, and I'm still learning about it. I'm not like at all knowledgeable, because I want to say 30 years of my life not caring about religion, and only in the last 5 years I'm like, I'm curious, I want to know more. So I'm still on a big journey of what that means. But this idea of Shakti and the divine feminine and the goddesses, and these are all stories, right? Like these are all stories that have a message. And so I have been very curious about what those messages are. And I think my invitation to everyone always is to find the divine feminine stories from your culture, because these are the stories that have been suppressed, that have been cancelled, that have been told that they were actually not goddesses, they were witches, and they had to be burned because they were doing bad things. But often the witches were medicine women, were herbalists, were doulas who helped give birth, who were midwives, and they were suppressed and killed and, yes, burned because of the knowledge of the human body, of the nature, of the energy that they already carried. And that was considered, I don't know, fearful, or just like the ego couldn't handle it, or the masculine ego couldn't handle that women had so much power to heal others, to birth others, to care for others, to nourish others, that they found a way to suppress. So my invitation here is, when you are reconnecting with your ancestral, whatever practice, religion, find the feminine within that and see what are the stories around the feminine that have been shared, because that's where I feel like the juice is. And you will start to go like, there are some interesting aspects that were never taught, and you are re-educating yourself, rewilding yourself, regenerating yourself, because you're starting to trust the feminine within. So yeah, that's practice 2. I have practice 3 and 4, which are going to come out next week, I think. But hopefully this live just added a little bit more nuance to why I wrote those 2 practices. And if any questions are here, feel free to ask. But I will be next sharing a bit more about my practice, again with nature, which I already actually talked about a bit today. And what was the 4th one? I already forgot. But yeah, I have bullet points written down, so I will share that next week, and we can continue to have this conversation around what does it mean to revive yourself. And when this series of articles is done, I will then talk about what does it mean to revive your business. Because again, there are lots of female founders here, but I always start with yourself, because again, just like when there's a thriving earth, you are thriving. When you are thriving, your business is thriving. So it's a journey. You need to be feeling resourced so that your business and your idea and your project can feel resourced. So I will share a bit about how do you revive your business as well. But yeah, I feel like that's all I would like to share today. I don't seem to have any additional messages that I want to share. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to receive them. One question that came. Can you hear me now? I think, yeah, it was. I just went to check the question. No, I don't know how to read the question, but the question essentially in gist was not knowing what to do next as a career move and feeling all these feelings about the current situation is not the right one, but not knowing the next step. And what I was saying is, I see a lot of women and I meet and work with a lot of women who are at this edge of change, of expansion, of transformation, of evolution. And it's a very scary place because you know what you don't want, but you don't really know what you want. And so my invitation, if you are in such a situation, is to again start with, like, if you embody a plant, start with yourself and really, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it has to be said, connect with your feminine, trust the messages that are coming through, practice, listening to your intuition, listening to the messages that you're hearing again and again and again. Like if there's something that's coming up, like you should do this, or I should do this, and I should do this, and you're like, no, 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 this doesn't work, or like this is hard, or this is too complicated, I can't do it. But if it keeps coming back, to you, I always invite you to listen, because that may not be the last thing, but it will get you on the path to find where you're meant to go. And so if there's a message, if there's this ping, a signal that keeps coming up, that's a gift that you're meant to share with the world. And my invitation is to go for that. And that could take you into the next phase of your evolution. And that work starts with really like grounding yourself, having somatic practices that you can embody in your life, having journaling practice that you can use to capture these moments of signals, having space to really understand who you are, what you want from life, what does success mean to you, what does a fulfilled life means to you. And that kind of work of like just understanding your inner world and also questioning why you believe certain beliefs, that can give you a lot of direction of where you want to be. Because often we just want someone to tell us what we should do next. And sadly, that doesn't work, because what they think you should do next may not match what you really want to do. So start with listening to yourself. Once you know that, then you can think about who in your ecosystem exists already who could support you on that journey, or do I need to find those people and build my support network, my own mycelium, so I can grow and I can like be nourished. And when days come when I'm not feeling confident, there's this support network that can like hype me up. And the last thing is talk about it. I feel like so many women have such beautiful visions in life and such beautiful ideas that they want to birth, but they don't even say it out loud. Like they don't even say it. If they say it out loud once, then they'll never say it again because they realize they're putting it out in the universe. So my invitation is to say it, and say it to people, say it out loud, that this is what I'm building. It doesn't need to be perfect. Perfectionism, again, is a trap. It's nonsense. It's bullshit. It will never let you go on the path you're meant to go on. So just start putting it out in the universe that this is what I would like to do. I'm exploring what this means for me. I'm exploring what this could look like for me. And then start acting on it and start taking steps. So yeah, this is just a little invitation to start with yourself, then look externally, and then once you have the support network, start talking about it and start sharing it with the world. And I feel like there are lots of people who are going to cheer you on, and there are lots of people who want to support you on your journey. But if you don't tell them, it's a bit hard to do that. So yeah, and this also is an invitation, because now we have Root to Rise, the last cohort for this year opening up. I will not be doing this program again this year. So this is the last chance. If you would like to join, we'll be starting most likely early September, mid-September, and we'll go until end of November or mid-December. It's a 3-month program, 12 weeks, to do exactly this, to give you the space to tap in and understand what your true desires are, which one of them are external influences from the capitalistic patriarchal world that we're part of, and which parts of it are actually true to who you are. So we do a lot of work understanding yourself, which is the first phase called the ground. We then go into nourish, which is really understanding who you want to be in the larger ecosystem and who is part of your ecosystem and what is your mycelium network that you can tap into to give and receive support from. And the last part is the seed, where we start to talk about what you're here to influence, what's your thought leadership, what you're here to talk about. People talk about random things and all over the place, but if there's one or two or three things that the world needs you, or like that you want the world to know you for, then what is that? We explore that. So that's the journey that you can go on. If this is interesting, just feel free to comment on this live or send me a DM on Instagram and we can talk, and I can check if this program will be actually helpful for you or if there are any other resources out there that I can guide you towards. But I truly, the invitation is, if there is a nudge from the universe, if there's a signal that keeps coming back to you that you feel like you must listen, but you're too scared of, find the courage. Find the courage. There's so much wisdom there. There's so much liberation there. There's so much expansion there. And if you stay in your brain and you stay in your masculine and you never reconnect or connect with your feminine, your body, your energy, you will never get to explore that side of life. So with that, I think that's all for today. It's been a long conversation, but I hope the ideas I shared about rewilding yourself and what that could look like in your day-to-day life is helpful. And if Root to Rise is of interest, please feel free to send me a message and I would love to have a chat with you. So let's do a closing breath together just to close this container that we had opened. So I invite you to close your eyes. Again, roll your shoulders. Rotate or turn your neck, whatever feels good. Sit straight with your spine erect, and we'll take 3 deep breaths in through the nose, hold, and exhale out through the mouth. Again, while you're doing this, inhale all that you want to take from this conversation, and exhale, let go all that doesn't serve you. So let's do 3 rounds. Inhale, hold, and exhale. Inhale, hold, and exhale. I invite you to make a sound when you exhale next. Own your voice. So inhale last time together as a collective. Hold, and out through your mouth. All right. Thank you for joining. It was a pleasure conversing with you. I will see you next month for the live. We'll also have an unfiltered conversation with someone really cool. I will post about it soon. But until then, have a lovely day, lovely evening, lovely afternoon, wherever you're joining from. And yeah, thank you for being here. Ciao.